Welcome into part 2 in an installment where I look at the Blazers using the 3rd overall pick and keeping Damian Lillard. This series is brought to you by BetOnline. Use the promo code BELIEVE for a 50% reward bonus. BLEAV, 50% rewards at betonline.ag. Earlier today I dropped a mock draft, and in that mock draft I had the Blazers selecting Thompson 3rd overall over Brandon Miller. That's a tongue twister. I am an Amen fan. I hold him in higher regard than Brandon Miller. The Blazers have already had the Thompson twins, Amen and Asar, in for a workout which Damian Lillard watched. Both these twins are from Oakland, California, Damian Lillard's hometowns. Both of them are 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan, and they both possess elite athleticism. However, Amen is a little bit more athletic, a little bit quicker first step, and that's why he's higher on boards, and that's why he is the subject of today's video. Before we take a look at how a potential roster could be built by bringing in Thompson and keeping Damian Lillard, I first want to talk about why I am higher on Thompson than Brandon Miller. I think that Thompson has better ball skills. I think he's a better athlete. I think he has a better first step. I think he's a better passer, and I think he'll end up being a better defender. I truly think the only thing that Brandon Miller has on Thompson at this point is three-point shooting and a little bit of size. Otherwise, I would take Amen in pretty much any other area. Now, there is a big difference in the shooting, though. Brandon Miller was phenomenal shooting the 3-ball last year at Alabama. Meanwhile, Thompson basically doesn't have a three-point shot. It is a broken jump shot. His form could use some work. I had a Twitter thread talking about what I think Amen needs to improve on his jump shot in order to see better results. By the way, if you don't follow me on Twitter, it's linked in the description box below, at ToreyJonesYT, Torey, since I know a lot of people love to spell my name wrong, even though it's 5 letters. But the reason I have Thompson higher on my board than Brandon Miller is I think he has higher upside. With his combination of length, size, ball handling ability, and then a wicked quick first step, as well as some creative shiftiness, being able to mix up his footwork around the rim to get shots off. He's a good finisher as well, and then very vertically explosive. I think those combinations of traits give Thompson a much higher upside than Brandon Miller. I could see Brandon Miller maybe being a top 15 to 20 player at best. Thompson I could see being a top 10 NBA player one day. Now, I do think he will have to learn how to shoot the ball, but we have seen guys learn how to shoot the ball before. Of course, you have your Michael Kidd-Gilchrist of the world and whatnot, so it's no sure thing, but shooting is teachable, and from all accounts, Thompson has a really strong work ethic, and I would bet on him being able to figure it out. And if he can become just an average three-point shooter, then he'll be a guy that'll be able to get to the rim at will. There will really be no good way to guard him. I look at John Morant as a guy who gets off numerous shots in the paint during the course of a game, gets to the rim at will. I think Thompson will be the same way because I think he's similarly explosive, similarly quick, but then also much bigger. So I think Thompson will be a guy that will be a walking paint touch, be a guy that will be able to blow by defenders, collapse defenses, make the right kick out pass to shooters, but then also finish around the rim at will. So with him, it's just developing that three-point shot, and he can be a really good NBA player in my opinion. Defensively, I also think he could be a solid player from day one, and I think he has the potential to be elite on that end. He's quick laterally, has a solid frame even though he needs to put on more strength. We've talked about the length, we've talked about the size. I think he could be a truly special defensive player, and that's why he might make some sense for the Portland Trail Blazers to take over Brandon Miller, who was okay defensively last year in college, but I don't think has the same level of defensive upside because I don't think he's as quick laterally. The Blazers need a lockdown, point of attack, perimeter defender at a wing spot, and I think Thompson is going to be the best option for that at the 3rd overall pick, regardless of who Charlotte takes at 2 between Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson. Now, I would not want Thompson to start at the small forward spot right away unless the Blazers blew it up and were tanking and that whole thing, then give him as many minutes as he wants. But I do think off the bench, being a guy who can handle the ball a bit with a bench unit, take some of the pressure off an Anthony Simons or Shaedon Sharpe or whoever's in with that bench unit, and being able to set those guys up while being a positive defender, that could be very impactful from day one for a bench unit that needs some off the dribble creation and playmaking. Now, the point of this video is building around Dame and a draft pick, but I will detour towards the route of the future. I really love Amen Thompson's fit long-term next to Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe, because Anthony Simons can be the point guard in that scenario, Shaedon Sharpe can be the shooting guard, has enough size for that spot, and then Amen Thompson can be the small forward because he has enough size for that spot as well. But offensively, Amen Thompson would probably function as the point guard for the most part with those lineups, being a guy that's creating for Anthony Simons catch and shoot threes, which is a strong suit of his, of course, and then Shaedon Sharpe is a lob target, cutter, three-point shooter. I think he would thrive playing off Amen Thompson's creation ability, especially in transition. Those two guys could be absolutely dynamic in such a scenario. And defensively, I think that three-man group could get the job done. Hopefully, Shaedon Sharpe becomes an average defensive player. I think Ant at the point guard position can be an average defensive player as well. And then Amen Thompson, I think, could be really, really good. So I really like that trio with the athleticism that they possess, the skills they possess. They're young. Anthony Simons isn't even on a max contract, and I think in a future without Damian Lillard, as much as I don't want to think about that, I think Anthony Simons could be a true all-star level guard that is actually a bit of a bargain on the contract that he is on, especially if he has somebody to create for him like an Amen Thompson that he can play off of a little bit. And I think Anthony Simons can be a guy that gets 23 to 24 points per game in the future by being a guy that plays well both on and off the ball. But let's talk about Amen playing on a Blazer team with Dame. And this is a lot easier to figure out than if the Blazers took Scoot Henderson at 3, which was the first installment of this series, as that gave the Blazers 4 guards. And a lot of people call Amen Thompson a guard, but that's more so how he plays on the offensive end. He can definitely play the 3, though. Definitely has the size for that position. He'll be able to guard that position. He is a small forward, in my opinion. And when I've talked about building this team, I've talked about how you need to fill 5 spots from point guard to small forward. You got Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe is your 3-guard rotation in that scenario. Amen Thompson is your backup 3. Going out and getting a small forward that can maybe slide up to the 4 would be ideal. OG Anunoby is a name that I tossed out in the last video with Scoot Henderson, and he still makes sense for the Blazers in this scenario as a guy that would keep Dame happy enough to potentially use the 3rd pick, would help the Blazers solve some of their perimeter defensive issues, and I do think he can play some small ball 4 and clear up minutes at the small forward position if Amen Thompson is playing very well. OG Anunoby is a guy I like in any scenario where the Blazers select someone with a 3rd overall pick. However, in my last mailbag that I dropped a couple videos ago, I talked about how Masai Ujiri is probably too stingy for the Blazers to pull off something realistic in terms of going out and getting OG Anunoby. It would probably take at least 3 first-round picks, and that is a steep price considering Anunoby is going into the final year of his deal and could walk for nothing in free agency next summer. But a starting lineup of Dame, Ant, Anunoby, Grant, and Nurkic I think is a better lineup than we saw to start last season when the Blazers started really well, when they had Josh Hart as the starting 3. And then off the bench, it's already a better bench because you got Shaedon Sharpe hopefully taking a sophomore leap and Amen Thompson. And those two guys could come into the game and just ratchet up the pace of play for the offense, be that true change of pace bench that I've wanted for a long time, that plays on the break, plays at a really fast tempo, and Amen Thompson would be the guy to lead that charge. Shaedon Sharpe played really well in transition as well. I think that's beneficial for him. And I do like Shaedon Sharpe coming off the bench next year still. I know a lot of people are high on him, but I think not putting too much pressure on him as a 20-year-old could be a good idea. I think in such a scenario, Sharpe should get 30 minutes per game, maybe play 3 or 4 minutes a game at the small forward spot next to Dame and Ant, but I think you really have your 3-guard rotation there with Dame, Ant, and Sharpe that is truly dynamic on the offensive end. Amen Thompson is the backup 3, and OG Anunoby is the starting 3. That is the ideal scenario. However, I'm just not confident in the Blazers being able to get OG Anunoby, so you're looking at other options such as a Dorian Finney-Smith that I've tossed out in the past, or maybe the Blazers go out and get a starting 4 and move Jeremy Grant down to the 3. I'm not a big fan of that, but if it keeps Dame in Portland and allows the Blazers to use the 3rd overall pick, then that could be ideal. Draymond Green would be the guy that I would like, because I think he would help the Blazers defense out the most out of any power forward target. However, I think he would have to opt into his contract and kind of force a trade to Portland. I don't think that's super likely. And Portland would probably have to give up Yusuf Nurkic in such a trade to match salary, and then the center position becomes a big hole because the Blazers wouldn't have a starter or a backup at that position. There might be some small forwards, though, that could make sense for the Blazers to start. They just need to be good defensively. And then Jeremy Grant playing the 3. He probably would get put on guards again, which was a problem last year because he struggles getting through screens. I hope that Chauncey would just focus on letting Dame and Ant guard guards. And then when they get screened out of plays, at least you have Jeremy Grant, whoever the power forward is, and Yusuf Nurkic as the back line of the defense, hopefully, in order to help protect the rim. Or if Yusuf Nurkic gets traded for the power forward the Blazers bring in, then find another center that can protect the rim. If Nick Claxton is available for a couple first-round picks, go get him. Because the Blazers have to improve the defense. Just plain and simple, they have to improve defensively. I think Amen Thompson could help that with the bench. I just don't think that Thompson is ready to start right away for a team trying to win games. I also don't think Sharp will be good enough defensively to start at the 3 spot next to Dame and Ant. I think a lot of people that are super high on Sharp have started to overrate what he is defensively. He had good moments last year, but fan bases overreact to block shots far too often, considering they only happen on 1 to 3% of defensive possessions. I thought Sharp had a lot of lapses, and they were to be expected. I wasn't even disappointed in them. It's what you would expect from a 19-year-old rookie who didn't play in college and isn't known for defense coming into the league anyway. So Amen Thompson, I think, will be better. He is known for some of the things he can do on the defensive end. He does have better defensive tools, in my opinion, than Sharp, because I think he's just faster laterally. And I think Amen has more of the mental makeup of an elite defensive player. But really, in any scenario where the Blazers don't trade the 3rd overall pick for a Jaylen Brown or Mikal Bridges, you're just asking the question of, how do the Blazers become average defensively? Also, how do you keep Dame happy? Because that's the tough one in these scenarios, unfortunately. I'm sure there are other forward targets that you could toss out there. Pascal Siakam won't be gettable unless the Blazers trade the 3rd overall pick, which defeats the whole purpose of this scenario. But it is honestly hard to find forward trade targets that are really good role players that could help the team win, but also wouldn't require the 3rd overall pick. It's hard to find guys in that middle range like a Dorian Finney-Smith who could legitimately help the team next year. And idealistically, I would like to aim a little higher than a Finney-Smith, but he seems like the clear-cut role player target if the Blazers keep number 3. But I'll let you guys recommend a couple of players, a couple of forwards in the comment section below that would make sense for this iteration of a Blazers roster. Is there a small forward or power forward that you would bring in to be the Blazers' 5th starter that would make sense defensively next to Jeremy Grant, Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons, and Damian Lillard? And then let me know how you'd fill out the rest of the bench. You already got Shaedon Sharpe and Amen Thompson there, so the Blazers would need to fill the power forward spot and the center spot. I'm a big Amen Thompson fan. If the Blazers use the 3rd overall pick, that's kind of the guy I'm hoping for at this point. I think he's going to be truly special in the NBA, and I'm looking forward to seeing how his career plays out. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We're almost at 8,400 subs. The growth lately has been amazing, so if you're new to the channel, we appreciate you. We have post-game shows during the regular season all season long, and we have some big stuff planned for next year, so stay tuned. Also, an NBA draft live stream coming up 2 weeks from today. We'll be live streaming every pick of the NBA draft. We'll have special graphics for that, and if you're interested in mock draft content, I dropped a video on that. On your way out, hit that like button, and with that being said, I'm out of here. Thank you to Bet Online for sponsoring this video, and until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.